Hello, Sky. I'm going to start with a pointing book today with Frog on the Log.
Reading Recovery is an early years intervention reading programme made up of intensive one-to-one sessions that run daily for up to 20 weeks. Each lesson is unique, yet they follow a simple structure that is discernible in all of them. There are two parts to the programme. The first few sessions are referred to as roaming around the known. The second is the much longer instructional phase. So, what happens in these lessons? Catherine Kell is working with Sky, who has just begun her reading recovery journey.
This is called Roaming in the Known, and it lasts for usually about 10 lessons, sometimes a little bit longer. And in this part of the programme, the children just work on what they know already, and you try not to introduce anything new to them at this point. He leapt in the pond with a... Do you know what comes next?
Splash, splash, splash.
This is to enable the child to become really confident and fast in their responses. This part of the programme forms the platform, the basis, the springboard for the instructional stage that follows after.
Like potatoes.
I'm observing her very closely, especially in the reading and writing, to see what strategies she's already got in place. Well done, Sky. How did you know that this word is oranges?
Because I was looking at the picture.
You were checking with the picture. Is there anything there that helped you in the word?
Because oranges begins with O.
Well done. Sky has some strategies already emerging, and it's knowing exactly how to help her to build on those. Let's choose another book to read. Which one of these would you like? Going to count to 3. 1. It's very important for Sky to be able to choose. This is conveying to her that there are opportunities where she needs to make choices, where she can be in control, that she can be powerful. Can you guess that word?
Kangaroo.
It was a very good guess. In Roaming in the Known, you're being very responsive to the child, and you could go and look at Roaming in the Known lessons in different schools for different children, and you'd see lessons that look quite different, because actually the child is informing you of how you're going to respond and how you're going to teach them.
We are to the library.
Okay, you said we are to the library. Does that sound quite right? Shall we try it again?
We are...
Ooh, something beginning with go. We go
to the library.
In roaming, you intervene very quickly so that the child doesn't feel that they're failing, so that they don't get themselves into a muddle.
We go to the aquarium.
Later on in the programme, you would perhaps sit back a little and see if they could discover for themselves where they were going wrong. We go to the farm. Check it. Well done, turn it over. The praise that we give in Reading Recovery is very specific, because you are trying to make the child conscious of the good strategies and behaviours that they have, and to really reinforce that, to get them to use that more and more. Library, let's see if you were right. Well done, Sky. You're a star, you are. Well done, super. You were looking and checking, weren't you? Good girl. That was smashing. In the instructional phase, you're gradually sitting back more and more and letting the child take more and more responsibility for their learning. OK, now you're going to be the teacher. Do as well as you did. Even in roaming, I try and convey that message to them by having little role-play opportunities where I sit back and the child becomes the teacher, because eventually you want the child to be teaching themselves. You've been writing some stories, haven't you? And we've made them into a book. Let's read our stories. Children, when they come into the programme, don't generally view themselves as readers and writers. And so for them to create their own little book, it's so exciting for them, and it just changes their own perception of themselves. When the child's rereading text, especially early on here, when they're not always getting that finger space in, they can be hard for their eyes to actually see and perceive where the word begins. And let's make that letter there a blue letter, because it's a clue letter, isn't it? I can swim. Well done. So having the blue letter helps them to find the start of the word. Are there any other sounds you can hear in Amy? What can you hear? Amy.
E.
I'm going to finish that one for you. At the end of roaming in the know, there isn't a specific point that you're trying to help the child to reach. Let's read it together. Are you ready? Starting at the top. I am Amy. I can go. Rather, you're trying to enable and boost them and discover their learning path and their strengths and their weaknesses in order for them to be ready to move on. Well done. This book's nearly finished now, isn't it? It's full of lovely stories.
So every Saturday morning.
Liam is further along his reading recovery journey, being taught here by Mary Lawrence. He's in the instructional phase and has a few weeks left before he completes the programme.
OK, now we're going to read Joey, a book that you've read before, first of all this morning, OK? Can you remember what this story's about?
When Liam first comes in for his lesson, we always reread one or even two familiar books that he's already read to
He
me.
was warm and safe and happy again.
Well done. Just here you read Joey jumped back into her pouch, which makes sense, but can you check that with your eyes? Joey?
Joey jumped into her boat.
Well done, because you saw the back up there.
The point of rereading this familiar book is to encourage phrasing and expression and a good pace, and to be able to see that the children are starting to use independent problem solving and some of the many reading strategies that they'll have learned elsewhere in the lesson.
Here, I like the way when you read off she went, I think you said further, and then you checked it and you said off she went faster and faster. How did you know that was faster, Liam?
Because it got a T in it.
It has, it's got the ST in the middle, and you noticed that, did you?
Yeah.
I've been looking for him to monitor his own reading, so therefore from time to time self-correcting any words that he might have read wrong, and just generally looking for signs of independence when he reads a book that he's seen before.
Bear puts his nose around the classroom door and
Good boy.
patted
Well done, Liam.
and
You went back, had a think, and then read on and then worked it out. Well done. It was a very...
A running record is used in reader recovery to record the reading passage. It's used because it gives a very accurate insight into the accuracy of the child. It tells the teacher what strategies are being used. It shows the errors, it shows the self-correcting, and it shows you what percentage of accuracy the child's achieving.
an old dog.
As we move into the writing section, we usually move to the board at the beginning of that, and that's known as letter identification, but later on in the programme, of course, it's word identification.
Yes, look at the word fly. That was easy, wasn't it?
Physically, it's quite good to get up out your seat and move over to the board, and it also brings variety to the lesson. It's like one section's finished, we're moving on to the next section.
I'm going to jumble it up. Make me kite. Thinking about...
Also, they learn a lot from actually moving the plastic letters. It seems to reinforce the learning if they independently actually move the letters and put the letters together.
So, let's go back to this. I can see a fire! Exclamation mark. Can you say that to me with an excited voice?
Fire.
Right, so we're going to think in our...
When we come to the section entitled Writing a Story, it usually entails 1 or 2 or even 3 sentences from the child, and it's a shared activity.
Right, you tell me your first sentence then.
I went with Adam to school.
Right, so you're walking to school, you and Adam, before you see the fire.
And after a short conversation, the child would hopefully articulate 1 or 2 sentences at the beginning of a story, and then together you will record it in their books.
Adam looked through the window.
In reading recovery, we use a phoneme frame to help the children to begin to hear the sounds in individual words.
W, I. Now put them in the right order, because they're not in the right order there, are they? W. Now what's the next sound?
Ha.
Listen. W, is.
E.
Yes, it's an I. Put the I in. Now, what's the last sound? TH.
We were focusing on the word with, and I was surprised, but Liam had put the letters in the wrong order.
Can you see the difference between that and that? TH are together, aren't they? Letter order, OK? Wait a minute. W-I-T-H, off you go. W.
W.
I.
And then I reinforced it with the sand and glitter tray because it's another material, and the kinesthetic aspect of the feeling of the letters helps reinforce it for children. So we stayed with that because with is a very useful word, it's a key word, and I would expect him to know how to spell it.
W-I-T-H.
Through. Now I'm going to write through for you. How do you think through begins? Through. Look at my lips. What's it? It's going to be TH, isn't it?
I wrote the word through for him because at this stage in his development it's quite a tricky word, and one doesn't waste time on words that are going to cause delay.
When you look through something, you can see it. Adam looked through the window.
When together we've written a couple of simple sentences or more complex later in the programme, I will record the sentence on a strip of paper and get him to reread it, and then I cut up the sentence.
Oh, tricky. Let's do the first sentence. Right.
And then it's given to the child, muddled up, and they put it in the correct order.
Well done.
At the end of a reading recovery lesson, we introduce a new book. This is a book the child hasn't seen before. The point here is to provide enough support, maybe talk about the storyline, look at the cover, the main characters.
And he loved football.
Well done.
Brother.
But to see how much the child can read it independently, but the teacher is there to support if needed.
But you said, Liam, listen to me, you said lived, and you changed it to love. Look at the word. How did you know it was loved?
Because it got an O in it.
Well done.
Praise is always important in teaching and learning, but in reading recovery it's specific praise. So you're using the praise to highlight those things that the child knows well.
I like the way that you are going back and fixing things by yourself, aren't you? Checking them.
So you would say something like, I like the way that you went back and read that and fixed it by yourself. So you make the praise specific, so that in itself becomes a reinforcement and a learning point.
What word have we made sure of?
With.
Right.
The framework for reading recovery lessons would be the same wherever it's delivered, but each lesson would look different in its contents and it would be geared to the strengths and weaknesses of that child.